Hello and welcome back to Fashion Report Friday, the weekly video series trying to get you the most MGP possible from the gold saucer every Friday when judging begins. This is week 175, and this time around our theme is Amon on display. Now you'll notice that for your helm you've got the Allegan attack clue. Your clue for your chest is Blood Sands. We've got Sleight of Hand for our hands and Storm of Blood for our legs. In this video, we'll have a 100 score, an 80 with dies, and the easiest 80 possible that I could come up with. So without further ado, let's move on to that 100. Alright then, here is our 100 score. I think you'll appreciate the lovely outfit that we've put together here for you today. But yes, so for the helm for 100 score, I went with the Amon hat. This is actually something you can get from Circus Tower, which is one of the Crystal Tower, Labyrinth and the rest of them, all of that stuff for Crystal Tower raids. So go do Circus Tower and get this from Amon. You can actually alternatively go for any of the other helms inside Circus Tower. This actually includes Phlegethon's mask, Scylla's helm of casting or healing, the Guardian's helm of maiming or striking, and indeed Amon's hat as well will work for gold, as you can clearly see here. I'm pretty happy, honestly, going for Amon's hat. I had it lying around. There isn't really any other alternatives as far as I can tell for things outside of Alliance raids, so you're probably going to have to just suck it up and do some Crystal Tower stuff. But on the plus side, you can do some resistance weapon grind at the same time. I suppose it's not really a consolation, is it? For the chest piece then, I went for the Colosseum Glarus because this is Disciple of War, level 44 and above. This is something, obviously, that you can get from your market board. It's obviously obtainable in Desmol Darkhold as well. The alternative to this is the Colosseum Shawl, which is available for magic users, about the same sort of level. I believe the Light Steel Glarus and the Taffeta Shawl will also work for gold rating for this slot as well. So choose whichever one you find easiest to get, or obviously tailoring to you being a Disciple of War or magic based on whatever helm you went for in the first place. That's pretty much it for the alternatives though for that slot. For the hands then, I went for the Gambler's Gloves. These will cost you 30,000 MGP in the Gold Saucer off of Prize Claim 1 under the Armor tab. And essentially, yeah, it seems weird spending MGP to get MGP, but this is actually one of the easier glove pieces to get for this slot. There is rumor that the Magician's Gloves and the Pilgrim's Gloves would work as well, but I cannot confirm or deny that at this point in time. So, yeah, maybe you can think of some other suggestions and leave those in the comments as well. For the legs then, finally, I went for the Antiquated Storytellers bottoms. Now, this is the level 70 job gear. These are job legs for level 70 job quests. So, obviously, since I chose the Bard helmet, the Amon's hat, I went for the Antiquated Storytellers, which are the Bard level 70. Of course, that means that you can go for any of the Antiquated bottoms from whatever job you play. Basically, you can go for, your Paladin ones, etc. Just obviously, it's going to depend on what your previous choices were. So there are perfectly good setups for pretty much all jobs this week. It's not just, locked into Disciple of War or Magic in particular, but it will require for a 100 score for you to at least have got to level 70 at the very least to be able to get that 100 score, I can confirm. But there we go, that's the 100. Let me know what you think about that one. But first of all, let's move on to an 80 with dies. Alright then, as you can see for the dies, we went for fairly expensive ones, unfortunately. Some of these are going to set you back, as you will probably no doubt imagine. This is just my normal gear that I've decided to dye, just to prove that any old gear dies perfectly fine. It just needs to be dyeable gear. A lot of people ask me for some reason what sort of gear they need to dye, but it's just any gear in the game. And if you dye any gear in the game of these colors, you'll get an 80 guaranteed, as you can see on the right there. So first of all, your weapon will need to be gloom purple. Your helm needs to be dyed coral pink. Your body gunmetal black. Your hands adamantoise green. Your legs gunmetal black, and your feet gloom purple. Now, if it wasn't for the two gunmetal blacks, this would actually be relatively simple and relatively cheap. However, unfortunately, those gunmetal blacks, depending on your own server, unless you've got Skybuilder scripts left over from the Ishgard restoration and can purchase them that way, you're going to have to deal with the market board. And unfortunately, like on my server, people have been racketeering that price all the way up. It's about 100,000 gil just for a pot of that dye at the moment, which doesn't seem like a lot, but honestly, for Fashion Report, is that really the best option? I say no, personally, as there are an easier way of getting 80 without needing to dye everything in the first place. So let's move on to that easy 80. Okay, so there are two ways that we're going to do the easy 80 this week. There are two possible, like, easiest 80s, depending on your own effort, basically, and what you have lying around. So my first thought was, why don't we have just the Amon hat then? So that's the Circus Tower helmet, along with your Antiquated bottoms, because everybody at a certain point will have level 70 of that particular job and have completed that quest anyway. So combining just, you know, the hat from Circus Tower for whatever job it is that you have, plus the Storyteller bottoms would give you an 80 guaranteed. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, though, if we can skip through this, would be instead to combine the other two items. So we're talking either the Colosseum shawl or the taffeta shawl or something like that. So let's go with the Colosseum Glarus. Let's change that hat back to just the Law's Order one whilst we're fiddling about a bit. Let's see. So we'd go for the Gambler's gloves, right? Again, this involves spending MGP, but we're just combining two of the items. So the Colosseum Glarus and the Gambler's gloves this time should do exactly the same sort of situation for the easy 80. And it's just as simple as that. People try to overcomplicate the whole, you know, how to get an 80 score thing. But honestly, it's very, very simple. You could even just have the, like, half dies and then just the Glarus, for example, if you wanted to. You could have like two or three dies. So you could go for, like, I don't know, instead of a gunmetal, you could go for soot black, for example, on items, and then have a Glarus, and that should get you 80 as well. It's as simple as that. You just want to mix and match depending on what you have available to you, and that's just how you can come up with the best score for you. Look, there's an 85 just with the Colosseum Glarus, which would obviously be the taffeta shawl or the, you know, the Colosseum shawl, depending if you're a magic user or a Disciple of War user. And then we've gone for the Gambler's gloves, which again are 30,000 MGP, which isn't ideal. But of course, what we could have done is we could have gone with, like, the taffeta shawl in the chest piece, and then just use some of the dyes from the dye option, like the cheaper dyes. Or we could have used the Colosseum Glarus and then, I don't know, like the job gear, you know, or without that, or just the job gear itself, like the level 70 artifact legs with something dyed in like 3 or 2 slots, and that should get you an 80 as well. So really it's just playing around, but that's the easiest 80 I could come up with. Honestly, I wasn't sure which was the best one to go for, so I just thought we'd do this instead and give you an idea of how you can best put up your own solutions. But yeah, hopefully you have better ideas below and leave me some comments. But hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully you do get your 80 for the week and your maximum MGP. Make sure you put your FC buffs on so that you can get some more MGP. I know a lot of people are trying to save up that MGP for future rewards, especially a certain car mount from Final Fantasy 15 that's making its way back into the game. You might want to start saving up that MGP if you haven't already. But yes, much love to everybody who takes part in this each week, including Kayako Star and the rest of the Reddit team who break this down as well and summarize a lot of the information. And huge thanks to the Japanese community, especially this week as well, being basically fire when it comes to coming up with a solution. They are always some of the fastest people on the planet, in my personal opinion, from what I've seen. And without a worldwide community effort, we would certainly not have videos and other things like this on the internet for you to use. So much love, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you all next time. Much love.